Mr. Vinayak Pottigar. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology, Walchand Institute of Technology, Solapur. So today's topic is like Amazon simple storage service bucket versioning. So at the end of this session, the students will be able to understand the S3 bucket versioning concept. They will be able to understand how to enable the S3 bucket versioning. They will be able to understand why to enable the versioning on S3 buckets. And finally, they can be able to demonstrate how to use the S3 bucket with versioning concept. So let's see what is exactly S3 versioning. So in this, we can use S3 versioning to keep multiple variants of an object in the same bucket. So with S3 versioning, we can preserve, retrieve and store every version of every object stored in our bucket. So we can easily recover from both unintended user actions and application failures. So in this, if you can imagine any particular data, if you wanted to put into this bucket, multiple times if you put it, this particular S3 bucket, if it is version, so it is keeping multiple copies of the same with different versions. So how S3 versioning works? So you can use S3 versioning to keep multiple versions of an object in one bucket so that you can restore objects that are accidentally deleted or overridden. For an example, if you apply S3 versioning to a bucket, the following changes occur. If you delete an object, instead of removing the object permanently, S3 inserts the delete marker, which becomes the current object versioning. So you can then restore the previous versions the way you want. Next is if you wanted to add an object. So if you override an object, the S3 adds a new object versions in the bucket. So the previous version remains in the bucket and becomes a non-current version. You can restore and previous versions as well, the way you want. So let's understand the version IDs. So if you enable versioning for the bucket, Amazon S3 automatically generates a unique version IDs for the bucket objects that is being stored. So for example, in one bucket, you can have two objects with the same key. Key is nothing but the object name, but different version IDs, such as some photographs like photo.gif files and which is having the previous version as all ones. So if you the same key, if you re-upload, so it instead of overriding it, it will keep both the versions intact within your bucket. So each object has a version ID, whether or not S3 versioning is enabled. So S3 versioning is not enabled, Amazon S3 sets the value of version ID to null. So if the S3 enables versioning, Amazon S3 assigns a version ID value for the object. So this value distinguishes that object from other versions of the same key. So when you enable S3 versioning on an existing bucket, objects that are already stored in it remain unchanged. So their version IDs, the contents and the permissions remain same. So after you enable S3 versioning, each object that is added to the bucket gets a version ID which is distinguished it from other version IDs of the same key. Like we have given an example of adding something into particular bucket. So this is my previous particular object which is already available. After making a change to the same document, if I try to put it onto the bucket, into the bucket, so the versioning, if it is enabled for this bucket, it will be saved by different IDs. So whenever you want, you can roll back to the respective versions at your own convenience. The same thing is for a delete an object. For an example, you have the two objects, and if I wanted this particular objects to be deleted, so instead of deleting this particular objects from a bucket, it is versioned. So one of the copy is marked as a delete marker. So both the copies are available, and as per your demand, you can shift back from one to the other as per the rollouts. So this is when you put and delete, you make the operations within your version buckets. So why to enable S3 bucket versioning? So there are a number of reasons. So protecting against the accidental deletes or overrides. You wanted the data to be recovered, so you can roll back whenever, whichever version you wanted to like. So this can be used for auditing and history tracking. And the last but not the least, integration with your lifecycle policies. So you can automatically archive older versions to cheaper storage device S3 storage classes. So if this is the case, let's begin the demonstration. So for this, we will shift back to the Amazon. So when you go into this, just click the S3, and if you click S3 in a search bar, it will automatically land up on a particular page where I have already particular buckets is already created. So we'll use this particular VVP WIT Solapur V1 bucket to upload some files and folders in it. So just click it, and there is an option called upload. So in this case, we'll try to add a few files where this particular bucket is empty, and we'll add these files into it. So in this case, we'll pick up some index file and the respective JPG files which are required. So once I open this, so this is available for being uploaded, and top right down corner you have upload button. So once it is started, you see this uploading is successful. So if you see, two particular objects are uploaded and this is identified as a key. Okay. Now if you wanted to check this particular index page, so you just open it and we will browse this particular index page using the particular object URL which is being provided. So if I go across this particular line and ping it on a browser, so this is a simple website which represents Walchand Institute of Technology, Solapur has NAC A+ grade and the particular respective picture. Now in this particular terms, if you make a particular change into this index file, for an example, I am going to into this, changing this particular index file, and we will just open it using a particular notepad. So instead of doing this, I am writing this Solapur WIT Solapur has NAC A+ grade and it is autonomous as well. This file I'll change or I'll save. I'll come back to the particular interface. Now if you see, I don't have a versioning enabled, right? Now for enabling a particular bucket versioning, so go to the particular bucket and click for the properties option. So here in the particular properties, there is a tag called bucket versioning. So if you can edit this, this is allowing us to enable that particular bucket for versioning. So again, save the changes, and once it is done, okay, go to your particular bucket. Now we will upload the same particular index file one more time. So we will go to the upload section, we'll go to the add folder, and we will go across this index.html, which is modified version. So if I upload this one more time, there is a tag called upload. So do this, and this is gets uploaded into my particular bucket. Now if you see the particular tag, see we have a single index file and WID Solapur, but there is a tag enabled. So if you just click show versions, so if you can see there is a version. So before versioning, the version ID is kept as null, and this is the after manipulating it, this will have its particular version ID. So both the copies are retained by your application within S3. So this is called preservation of versions. So if you just go across this particular term and refresh the page, so if you see, this is the rolled back version which we have updated. So now if we wanted to delete something from it, okay, so this particular terms, if you just cancel it, okay, so if I go across deleting the particular index particular page which is versioned, so if I just click it and if I just delete this particular document, so it is asking me to give the confirmation to permanently delete. So using that particular IDs, we can permanently delete anything which is possible within your terms or bucket. So if you just go back and refresh, you can roll back to the previous version as well. So rolling back and forth with different versions is quite easy. Now I hope you understand how to get your versioning enabled. And last but not the least, if you just delete this particular WID tag after this particular, if you just delete this particular JPG file, I'll just wanted to delete this. So it is asking me for the confirmation. And once I did this, so if you check, I'm closing this, but in the index page with the same URL, if I refresh, this has been deleted. So just go back into the bucket, and if you just enable this particular, so this particular JPG file has got the delete marker. Okay, so something is deleted, but it is not permanently deleted, it's kept at a particular versioning. So if I wanted to roll back, just click this and delete this particular marker. So if it is asking me to confirm this particular action, so I am going back to this particular terms and permanently deleting this. So once you done this, and if you refresh this particular page, it is rolled back to the previous version. So through this, we have learned how your S3 bucket versioning concepts works. Now it's time for the quiz. So what is the main purpose of enabling versioning on an Amazon S3 bucket? So is it to automate, encrypt all objects stored in the bucket, or to store multiple versions of an object and protect against accidental deletions, to replicate objects to another AWS region, or last but not the least, to improve the performance of object retrieval? So take a pause and try to answer this. So correct answer is answer B. Thank you.